My name's Eric Dowsett. I'd like to introduce a rather exciting new program that I've developed in association with my partner, Berger. Basically, the program is designed to help those who suffer from extreme electrosensitivity, people who are affected in a very negative way by all of the technology that seems to exist all around us. Our approach is quite different to what you would normally expect. We're not trying to help you protect yourself or develop ways to avoid exposure. Rather, we're looking at ways to help the body cope with this information in a very, very different way. So we've developed through the years that I've been practicing this work a method where we can change our relationship to the disturbing frequencies that we encounter from microwaves, high tension power lines, even electrical appliances. What we're trying to do is to get the body to see things differently, to understand things differently, so it's no longer adversely affected by the radiation. So, what we're going to look at in this new program is ways and means that the body can adjust or reevaluate what's going on. The program itself is stretched out over a period of 6 months. There's only 1 day per month that we'll be working, and that's designed so that this information, although very powerful, if you apply too much of this awareness too quickly, you could end up in more problems than you're currently experiencing. So what we're trying to do is introduce you gradually to a new way of being. We'll support the 1 day a month with ongoing support in the form of a webinar, which will occur every month as well. People should make an attempt to attend all of the 6 days, and they should listen in to all of the webinars. That's really important because the body needs time to assimilate change. This is such a different way of looking at how we view our lives and how we view ourselves in relationship to our environment. Normally, people tend to try to change or moderate or manipulate their environment so that they can feel safe within that environment. But if the pattern, the subconscious conditioning, the energy on a cellular level doesn't actually change in the body, then we are continually looking outside for answers. If we keep looking outside, we are failing to address the fundamental part of the problem, which is how our conditioned body responds or reacts to this information. So we would require people to attend all of the program because there'll be plenty of homework, plenty of time in between the workshops for you to develop the practice. It's not something that can be done overnight because the body is so strongly conditioned, even addicted to certain ways of being, that can be quite destructive, can be quite negative. So it takes time to re-educate the body so that it's no longer responding or reacting in the same old way. The work itself is very much about developing the capacity to be anywhere at any time. So no matter what your sensitivity, we'd be addressing the problem from the same direction, looking at how the body has been conditioned or used to now responding to stress in the environment. Most people are conditioned to identify with their thoughts or their emotions. They notice feeling unwell, they notice feeling stressed, they notice feeling depressed or anxious, and then they identify with that feeling. They say, I am feeling this, I'm feeling that, I'm this, I'm that. And what we've discovered, demonstrated by recent discoveries in science, is that if we continue to identify with phenomena, if we continue to associate ourselves with stress every time we encounter electromagnetic radiation, then basically we're telling the body to produce a particular chemical that creates problems in the body. So if you say you're stressed or you're anxious, the body simply produces more chemicals associated with stress and anxiety. And then, of course, you take on those physical characteristics. You become stressed, you become anxious. And of course, when you feel that in the body, if you still identify with it, if you still think this is who you are, then you create more stress, more anxiety. And then you have to deal with the results of that. And then you go looking for ways and means to alleviate the symptoms. So really what we do, the body responds to external information, whether that's another person or that's electromagnetic field. The body then produces a particularly unique chemical in association with that relationship. We identify with that chemical. We think we're sick, we think we have this, we think we have that. And by thinking, we make it so, because the body produces chemicals that we then interpret as an emotion or a physical feeling. We identify with the feeling, we think we're feeling this, we're feeling that. And of course, that just produces more chemicals, which intensifies the feeling. And if you continue to follow that path, then you'll continue to suffer. Everybody's doing it, everybody's conditioned to do it, everybody thinks that's what they need to do. But of course, what we've found over the years, practicing this way of being, is that the more energy we give to all of these aspects of the self, the more real they appear to be. The more real they are, the more intense they become, the more we suffer from it, until the body cannot cope any longer and it gets sick. And this is quite likely what's happened with people who are suffering from electrostress. On some level, they've identified with a particular thought or feeling which they associate with electromagnetic radiation. And then the body, over years, has become weakened by that. So the immune system's become compromised by this identification. When the immune system's compromised, then all sorts of other things can arise, all sorts of other problems show up. So what we're trying to do here is look at the fundamental reason why the body reacts like this, why it behaves in this particular way, and we've developed a method that we can use, everyone can apply, it's a very simple, safe process to help you move beyond this state of victim consciousness, which allows all of this stress to continue and perpetuate. And the longer you stay identifying with it, of course, the more the body's going to get stressed. The more stressed the body is, the more weak you become, the more a victim you become, the more dependent upon external phenomena, where you look for outside of the self for change, for support. You try to do more workshops, spend more money, do this, do that, but nothing works, because you're not facing up to what's the fundamental issue here, and that's your subconscious conditioning and how it's been taught, or how it's convinced itself to respond and react. So you can see the reason we have the program spread over 6 months is that it's going to take time and practice to re-educate the body to a place where it no longer takes the feelings personally. And this, of course, can have broad range effect, positive effect on all aspects of your life. Because when you notice an emotion and you stop giving it energy, then that emotion will fall away. It will die because it's not being supported by your energy. Very simple, very powerful. For more information on the workshop itself, we'll be putting up the website's contacts after the end of this very short introductory video.
So Eric, can you tell me, for a person without any experience in clearing, what would be the most important thing to know about clearing?
Well, we could write a book on the benefits of clearing. Simply put, we learn to not blame others for whatever we notice and feel. We learn not to blame ourselves. We learn not to judge others. We learn not to identify with phenomena, which means that normally when you're in relationship with another, there's a lot of subconscious interaction forming a part of that relationship. So your body is responding or reacting to the energy of another body, but in a conditioned way that you may not be aware of. All the time you remain unaware of this, you remain a victim to that. And you continue to meet problems, problem people, problem situations, health issues, financial challenges, because you're still on a subconscious level creating that reality, even though you wouldn't do it on purpose if you knew you were doing it. So the clearing, one of the many benefits of clearing, is that by stop judging and blaming, the reality that used to present starts to fall away. Because if you can truly understand that the reality that you experience is a product of your own total self, which means that the part you've already embraced and accepted, plus the hidden shadow side of the self, while the shadow side of the self still exists, then you're still going to experience problems. So we've got to try and work out ways to face the shadow, to bring the shadow into the light in a very gentle and safe manner, which clearing does, of course. When the shadow has been brought into the light, it no longer shows up on your path. And we've heard just an example earlier on, when I think you yourself said when you were in Egypt a while ago, the first time when you were in the temples, you felt the energy very heavy, very uncomfortable. But the most recent trip, after you've been practicing clearing for a while, there was no problem. You felt at ease in those temples. So what the temple was showing you was areas that you still carried in your subconscious that you hadn't yet embraced. And all the time that happens, you'll continue to meet stress in the temples. But when you've embraced that, when you've accepted that, then totally accepted, I mean, in the heart, not just intellectually. When you've totally accepted that, there won't be a problem anymore. You'll be able to move through those environments without feeling the negative effect, because you've embraced it. You won't meet it again. So that's another. We could go on and on about the benefits of clearing in everyday life. The simple benefit: if you're stressed, if you're anxious, then that rules your life. When you understand what's going on, but understanding from a totally different perspective, then stress and anxiety and depression fall away, because they're no longer being given energy. If you're not feeding these old patterns, they can't survive. It takes a while to actually understand what's going on and develop the practice, but the more you practice it, the less stress you encounter, the less situations of discomfort you meet along the way.
So you say it needs 1 month. You just do it 1 day a month. And the person who is concerned, what does she do during this month? Just to remember not to blame myself and the others.
That's a start. There'll also be other exercises designed to help us notice change in body feelings, change in the chemistry of the body, in emotions, in physical feelings, but then also to be able to develop the ability to walk away from those feelings. And it won't be anything to do with electromagnetic radiation. This is on a general level, a general noticing, bringing yourself back more and more into the moment. But it depends, of course. In the second month, we'll be moving on to explore deeper feelings, going further into this practice. So each one day of the month will present information and exercises. Then the exercises you'd go home and practice. 2 weeks after the first day, there'll be the webinar where we all gather and talk about how we're doing and ask questions, get some answers perhaps, get some support. Because this way of being is so radically different to what everybody practices these days that you really need community to be able to support you. You can't do this on your own, because what happens is you try and change your relationship to feelings, but you go back home into your familiar environment, family, work, whatever. Everybody's still operating in the same way that they were before. And so you need someone that you can talk to, someone who can give you some support about the change that's going on. Because the people around you aren't going to be able to support you, they're just going to ridicule you because they don't understand. So we need more people understanding to support us. But of course, as you develop the practice over the 6 months, your system changes dramatically, where it's no longer identifying quite so easily, readily with information. And when it stops identifying with the phenomena, the problems cease to show up. And that's not just, as I said earlier, not just around electromagnetic radiation, but all sorts of relationships, situations that happen on a daily basis. So each homework session, if you like, each practice session will vary and gradually deepen, taking the person further into the true nature of who they are, a different understanding of who they are, so they no longer have to remain a victim to that. But we do it slowly because the system needs time to adjust.
So you gather, in this first time, you always gather to work, to try to clear. You do it together with others. You can't do it alone in the beginning.
I think the problem with trying to do it alone, although we will give some exercises where you do practice on your own, of course, but the problem with doing it on your own is that you have trouble facing up to who you are, to your own shadow, to the parts that you've not yet embraced. It's a lot easier for me, for example, to embrace your shadow than it is for you. So in the early stages, of course, we're using each other to support each other, to get to the place where we're stable and strong enough to support ourselves.
What happens when I try to protect me from electro smog? Do I make it even?
Well, yes. I mean, the thing with people who are seriously affected by electro smog, then of course you're going to try to do whatever is possible to support and protect yourself. But the fact that you're identifying with phenomena in the first place is a part of the problem, because if you try in any area of life, if you try to protect yourself, you have immediately given reality to that situation. So if we come back to being in the temple, had you tried to protect yourself from the heavy energies, of course, you're saying, this is real, I have to do something about it. What can I do about it? And then that's another 10 years of your life wasted while you try and work out what to do about it. When in actual fact, if you can stop doing and start to accept, but that's why we've done this electro smog thing over a long period of time, because you're not going to be able to just accept, just because I say so. You've got to develop a different relationship on a very fundamental cellular level in your own being before you can deal with this stuff. So trying to protect is simply saying, I don't want this, I don't like this. And then you're going to spend a lot of time and money trying to work out ways to protect yourself. But if you recognize that the more you try and protect, the more you're actually giving energy to that which you're trying to protect yourself against. So you're actually feeding that energetically. I have never, in all the years I've been practicing this, found the need to protect myself from anything. Quite the opposite. I have encountered many different energies in the years I've been practicing this. And of course some of the energies are seen as pleasant, some as unpleasant, some as light, some as dark, some as good, bad, whatever. But all the time we continue to judge those energies, we're remaining or sustaining the problem, because when we judge, we say, don't want that, want this. Don't like that, and so on. And so we're doing that all of the time, whether we're conscious of it or not. We've got this duality, this polarized consciousness running. And all the time we've got the polarized consciousness running, we're at risk from all of this external phenomena. If we can collapse that, then there is no further problem. We don't give energy to the problem, the body is allowed to heal itself. But all the time you try and protect, you're simply shutting yourself down, saying, I'm separate from this. And if you say, I'm separate from this, you've given energy to that disturbance. So if you say, you've got your cell phone handy, whatever, and you feel a disturbing radiation when you use it, so then you try and do something about it, spend a lot of money on something that you can try and protect yourself, and so on and so forth. But then all of the time what you're doing is you're saying, this is separate from who I am. This is not a part of me at all. But when you understand the nature of consciousness, it's all a part of everything. We're all a part of the same thing. So when we can understand that, and we can embrace this information, then this will no longer be a problem. So it doesn't show up in our life. Because at the moment, all people are saying when they're experiencing difficulties with this, they're describing symptoms to me. They're not describing the cause. They probably don't even know what the cause is, but they know what the symptoms are. So then they want to try and address the symptoms. How do you do that? Well, you don't use one of those for a start. You shut yourself away in a cave in the Himalaya, eat lentils and meditate all day, and then you'll still find something wrong, because who you are inside hasn't changed. So you're still blaming the outside, you're still looking outside for answers, you still try and shut yourself away, you still try and protect yourself. But if you can embrace this, which is what I do on a daily basis, of course, all phenomena, all information, not just this, then it doesn't worry me anymore. Come back to the temple, embrace it, no more problem. You know, you've got a problem with the neighbour, notice how it makes you feel, embrace those feelings, accept those feelings, don't blame anyone, and you change. When you change, the whole relationship with the neighbour changes. And if you're really good, the neighbour will move. Or not, but it won't matter anymore. Once you've embraced the feelings, it doesn't matter anymore. But if you continue to protect yourself, or think you need to protect yourself, you're not embracing the feelings, you're pushing them away. And if you keep pushing feelings away, you just give them energy, you give them strength. And then you're always pushing them away, you're always looking for means to protect yourself. So you can protect yourself if you feel the need, because a lot of people in a seriously uncomfortable situation certainly feel the need to protect themselves. But how many years has that been going on? And you still protect yourself? 20 years later, 30 years later.
But there are things which are unhealthy. Smog from the cars and so. And then, what's with that?
What's with that? That's still a judgment. Now, if you have judgment around something as being good or bad, then you try and avoid it because this is good, this is bad. All the time you have that energy within you, that judgment within you, you're guaranteed to continue to meet smog from cars. It's always going to be a problem. It's going to be so obvious that it's going to be a real issue for you. When you cease to judge it, it's not there anymore. But you see, because this gets a bit tricky, we create the world we live in simply by being in it, by expecting the world to be a certain way, which is how we've been conditioned to expect it to be. And our expectations are always met. So if you expect smog to be unhealthy, you're going to meet smog everywhere. If you expect this stuff to be unhealthy, you're going to meet it everywhere. Okay? If you expect the demons in the temples, you're going to keep meeting demons in temples. Because that's what we expect in life. When we change the expectation by changing who we think we are, then it ceases to show up. This has happened over and over again. Like a thing you think is smog is bad. Well, is it? Or is it your relationship to smog that's the issue? It always just comes down to this. Is that which you are currently judging as bad, really bad, or is it your relationship to it? Is the fact that you can still judge something so strongly a part of the reason you keep experiencing it? And when you don't judge it, you cease to, it just doesn't show up anymore. Like if you have the neighbour from hell, and I've dealt with this a few times, if you move to try and escape the neighbour from hell, but you haven't grown or changed in yourself, the next one is going to be really neighbour from hell. It's going to, you know? And so it goes. You continue to meet yourself on the road. But if you have the neighbour from hell, you understand what's going on. You change the way your body reacts energetically to that person. So there's no longer a reaction in your body at all to this neighbour from hell. Then you move, you get a really pleasant neighbour. It's just reflecting back to you. The whole of the world, whole of the reality that you live in is a mirror reflecting back to you what you still need to address, what you still need to look at in yourself. Whether it's electromagnetic radiation, whether it's a neighbour from hell, whether it's smog, whatever. And all the time we hold resistance or judgment around that, we will continue to meet it. So what I've found on my journey is that I've embraced some heavy energy, some sort of demonic, dark stuff. And I've embraced it without blame, judgment, fear. And I know I just don't meet it anymore. Because it's not in here anymore. And it'll be the same with smog, be the same with whatever you think's going on. Because if you... if you... I don't know, way back there was a film, What the Bleep, and they talked about, in one part of that film, about all the different possibilities, probabilities, different realities, parallel realities, and we choose particular realities out of the multiple choices that we have. We don't appear to have multiple choices because we're very much a victim still to our past conditioning. So we've got to follow that past conditioning. So we go through this door because that's the door we expect to go through. And of course we've gone through that door, well the next door's going to be the same. We'll go through that one as well. We don't really have a choice. Our choices are controlled by our conditioned past. So we're not free to choose a different opportunity. So you keep going through the door that says smog is bad. Well, of course you open this door, it's full of smog. Because that's what you're expecting. But if you change quite dramatically your understanding, your relationship to smog, you might go through that door. No smog. So you see, if you stop giving energy to something, even like smog, we can change the world that we live in by changing our expectations. But that has to happen on a fundamental level. It has to happen on a very deep cellular level, on a heart level, not on an intellectual level. But when we change that, the reality changes. So you stop giving energy to anxiety or depression. It doesn't show up anymore. Might take a while because we have spent years conditioning ourselves to respond or react to a trigger that creates depression. You just turn it off. You could just turn it off if you truly understood what was going on, but humanity is so addicted to certain ways of being, it's a real struggle to turn it off because we prefer depression to the other door, because we don't even know there's another door. We're forced by our conditioned mind to keep going through the same door. So, smog? What smog? You know, you need smog's bad, go to Hong Kong. And it's pretty intense there. But if you're going to live in Hong Kong, you've got to accept smog. You can't be judgmental about it. And all aspects of your life, it's not just smog. Smog, of course, all aspects. Okay?
Difficult.
No.
You always say, don't believe me a word.
Yeah, well, it's the safest not to believe me, but it's not difficult. Why is it difficult? What is difficult about it?
I can understand it with feelings and so, but with material stuff, yeah.
But why is it difficult? It's only difficult because you're still addicted to an old way of thinking. But even that's not a problem and not difficult if you develop the ability to be totally present in this moment. What's the problem?
Oh, okay, yeah, no problem.
And it's not difficult at all. You only think it's difficult, but that's the conditioned mind trying to control the show.